Oh, hey, hello everyone. My name is Max, and today I'm going to be talking about Superset. But before I jump into it, I wanted to just share a little bit of my excitement around the conference. As a user of open source data tools and as an actor in different communities and as a builder, just really excited for this this conference to come together and for people to have the opportunity to talk about what they're building and all the open source data projects that are emerging nowadays or maturing. I think it's going to be really interesting to hear more about everything that's getting built in this space. So let's jump right in. Today, I'm going to do a quick intro of who I am, talk a little bit about open source BI, talk about Superset. We'll do a demo, and then and all of that within about 20-25 minutes. So here we go. So quick speaker intro. So my name is Max. I'm super excited and passionate about building open source data tools. I've been building data tools since like for my whole professional career, which is like probably 20 years plus at this point. So I've been working with that through different generations of data tools and building stuff. At this point in my career, I'm most recognized for the work that I've done as the original creator of Apache Airflow, which I created while at Airbnb in 2014. And soon after that, so I think it was less than a year in after I joined Airbnb as a hackathon project, I started Apache Superset, which I'm going to talk about today. More recently, so in 2019, I started a company called Preset. This is a commercial open source company around Apache Superset. So our mission is to make every team a data team. And the way that we're approaching this, and at least in this phase, is by offering Superset as a service. So I'll let you know a little bit more about this towards the end of the presentation. But for now, I will jump right in and talk about Superset. So first, I wanted to talk a little bit about this blog post that I wrote a while back, not so long back actually, about the future of business intelligence being open source. So the general idea of this blog post was to take all the reasons why open source has been disruptive and great and successful, and to apply that to the space that Superset is in, which is the business intelligence space, and see how it applied. And it turns out it applies very well, right? If you think about some of the core reasons why open source has been successful and why Superset itself, has been successful in business intelligence. Let me decompose that fairly quickly here into a series of points. So the first one, I think, to me, or one of the first one, is avoiding vendor lock-in, right? These vendors, these enterprise vendors that have been around for quite a while in different spaces, but namely in the business intelligence space, when they lock you in, you're kind of stuck with them forever. You can't contribute necessarily back. It's really hard to customize the tool, to extend them, to integrate them with your stack. So that was actually one of the premise why I started Superset when I was at Airbnb in 2015. It's the fact that we were using all sorts of modern technologies like Apache Druid and Presto that didn't work so well with the tools offered on the market at the time. I think since then, these tools work well with the databases we had chosen at that time, but I think they often are a few steps behind in terms of connecting with the latest, greatest tools that people are using nowadays. Another point, I think, is just the power of a community. So when everyone gets together and build things together, and when everyone can contribute, and not just by contributing code, but by contributing questions and answers and extensions and plugins, I think everyone wins, and open source really welcomes these contributions from all over the place. And there's really a lot of power that comes from a very engaged community. So we certainly have that in our community. And that's a trait of thriving open source communities. So for these reasons and many more, I believe strongly that the future of software is largely open source and the future of business intelligence and data visualization, data consumption as well. A bit more on Superset. So I mentioned a little bit the story of how Superset came to be. Nowadays, like many years later, so about 5 or 6 years later, Superset has established itself as a very successful open source project, certainly one of the most popular one out there, and certainly in the space that we're in. So the community is thriving and growing. Ourselves, at Preset, are investing a lot in making this product and this community successful. So what is Superset? So really, it's a business intelligence tool in many ways. It's a data visualization, data exploration platform. It allows you to explore your data, visualize it, assemble dashboards, connect to pretty much any SQL speaking database, share with your peers, share with your team, your visualizations and dashboards. So you'll see that in much more detail in the demo, but that's a quick overview. Why people love Superset today. So it's kind of one-stop shop for everything data visualization and business intelligence. So you have, dashboards, a code-free Explorer, as well as SQL IDE. So under that, under these different portion of the product, you can pretty much solve all of business intelligence use cases. It works well with all the modern data sources and all the not so modern ones as well. So pretty much every database out there that can take analytical workloads work very well with Superset. We got tons of visualizations that people can select from. It's an extensible platform too, in that sense, where people can create new visualization plugins. So there's all sorts of visualizations that exist today, and if the ones that exist are not to your likings or to your liking, or if there are some missing one, it's pretty easy and doable to create a new visualization for Superset and share it with the community. It is extensible and scalable, so very much a cloud native type infrastructure. So runs, in Docker and Kubernetes, made out of bits and pieces that people know how to productionize and run at scale. So you can definitely take control over that. There's a lot going on here. I won't read through all of this, and some of it you'll see in the demo. So I want to go kind of quickly, but we have dynamic dashboard, custom Vig plugin, a nice semantic layer. We do support all sorts of visualization. There's good caching to relieve some of the load on the underlying database. We've got granular permission, RBAC security, so role-based access control, as well as alerts and reports. So if you want to schedule some reports to be sent via Slack or via email, you can do all these things and more in Superset. So the list of feature is very rich, and that's kind of what's expected of modern business intelligence solutions today. Lots of companies are using Superset today in production. So those are just some of the logos. We have a page on the repo, I believe it's somewhere called, it's called In the Wild, that has the self-reported companies and organizations who use Superset today. This list is growing quickly and pretty much every day. So we can only assume that this is the tip of the iceberg, and there's a lot more companies that are getting tons of value from using Superset. I'm going quickly through this slide here. So that's a one view on the architecture of Superset, saying that essentially we have this cloud native architecture, that it's essentially a certain load of web servers and async workers running Celery with some caching, MSHQ. But I won't get too deep into that today. I'm going to focus more on the demo and looking at what is Superset and how does it work and what can it do. We support all sorts of databases. I mentioned this already. So these are some logos. I think we go way beyond that, and the extensibility is the beauty of it. So you can write your own drivers as well. We use an underlying Python package called SQL Alchemy to do this. So it's fairly easy to write and extend more drivers. And because of that, that's the reason why we have all these drivers today, because we're in the Python ecosystem. All right, so let's get into the demo. So I'm going to go fairly quickly through this too, knowing that I'll give you some instructions if you want to go and run this on your own and do your own test with your own data. That's going to be much more interesting. But I wanted to give you an overview of what it looks like and feels like to work with Superset. So here we just happen to be on the preset platform because that's probably the easiest way to run Superset today. So here, disregard the logo on the top left. If you'd be running the open source version of Superset, you would see a Superset logo here on the upper left, and maybe there's a handful of bells and whistles that you might not, that you'll be able to see in this presentation that you wouldn't see in that context, but it's pretty much pretty much the same experience, right? So at preset, we run essentially vanilla Superset with a little bit of ice cream on top. So for giving you a quick tour, and I'm going to go quickly here. The goal is not to explore all the features. I'll show you the big chunks, the big parts of Superset. So here we're just looking at a simple dashboard. So that just happens to be a generic sales dashboard with tabs. Here, I don't think there's any of the dashboard level filters that have been set for this dashboard, but you can have these interactive components of selectors and sliders and filter handlers to interact with your dashboard. There's some amount of cross filtering and actions of those. I don't think they've been set up for this specific dashboard. So I won't get into this, but I'm going to go here from the dashboard. I'm going to skip the dashboard editor too, but there's a dashboard editor here that if you click in the dashboard editor, you can add more charts, and you can add different sections and tabs and the things you would expect out of a dashboarding type application. Now I'm going from the dashboard into what we call the Explorer or the no-code Explorer. So here, whether you speak SQL or not does not matter, where you can easily here drag and drop. Also say if instead of breaking down by product line, I wanted to group by say country, I can easily just drag and drop. I could apply a filter here. So if I wanted to filter on a specific product code, I could do that pretty easily here. And then here you can run your different queries. You can pick off of this visualization picker, whatever visualization makes sense to you. So here is the place where you select the visualization type that you want. You pick, what kind of time filtering and time grouping you want to do. So where you define your metrics and what you want to group by through drag and drop, or by clicking here and selecting the metrics and dimensions you're interested in. These visualization you can then easily assemble and save and share. You can assemble inside dashboards. I'm going to flash very quickly our semantic layer, which is kind of what Superset knows about the underlying database. So Superset understand the data structures. So you point it to a table or view or a SQL query, and then you can add calculated columns and metrics. There's a variety of settings that you can set, but essentially this is our simple semantic layer where you can add pretty labels and nice description for your fields and metrics. So going quickly through this, very much on purpose here. Here there's behind the scene, Superset is generating these queries, right? So you can view the query that Superset is generating behind the scene. And if you're interested, you can also, or if you want to go deeper and do perhaps more advanced things, you can also spin off SQL Lab. So SQL Lab, so we looked at dashboards, we look at our no-code Explorer. Now we're looking at SQL Lab. So SQL Lab is a simple SQL IDE. So here I can navigate to whatever schema. So I think here we were looking at sales data. I believe that's the table we're looking at. So you can navigate your schemas and you can author arbitrarily complex SQL, run your SQL. It's also possible here to visualize your result, to kind of go back to where we were before. So I could have modified the SQL, write some complex ratios and subqueries and whatever SQL makes sense. And then it's possible to go back and visualize those results. So the super high level, this is what Superset is about, right? I didn't show everything. Maybe I'll give a peek here to some of the menus without necessarily going too deep into them, but this is in the settings menus where you would set your different access roles and your role level security. We have this notion of annotation layer for time-based annotations. You can manage CSS templates if you want to style your dashboards. We have these alerts and reports, or if you're interested in delivering scheduled reports or alerts via Slack or email, you can do that here fairly easily. And on top of that, you know, there's a handful of other things, other small features where you can upload CSV. You can, you know, configure your databases and data sets, as I showed a little bit before, and you can look at collections of charts and dashboard. And there's also this home screen where we started this demo from. So with that, I'm going to go back to my slides and wrap up. My goal was to keep this demo like a very quick tour, you know, like a 5 or 10 minutes tour. So with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about preset. So we love for people to join the community, the Superset community. So I encourage you to go to our GitHub and to the Superset GitHub, and there's tons of resources there. You can install Superset, use Superset, get involved in the community, ask questions, get involved. So there's tons of resources there. I wanted to mention preset because I believe it is very much the best way to get started in Superset. So if you're interested in just testing out Superset and checking it out and connecting it to your data, you can get started in literally the next minute or so. If you want to go the open source route, this is totally great too. And we're trying to make that as simple and easy to get onboarded on Superset as it is with preset, but it's a little bit more involved to go and to install Superset and get it to run. So I encourage you to go to preset, where you have pretty much all the features that you get out of open source Superset with some extra on top. And we do offer a freemium distribution to Superset, so you can get up to 5 users, kind of unlimited. With some of the features are limited around security, role-based access control, and just the number of users you can have. But this is totally a great place to try and get started with Superset. As always, you know, you're not locked in with us as a vendor too, so you can always pivot and decide to run Superset on your own now or later. So that was the little bit of commercial bit here about presets. I won't go too deep into the commercial offering here, but these are some of the items that you get out of preset that you may not get out of the box out of just open source Superset. And with that, that's mostly a wrap for my talk. So highly encourage people to go and try Superset and get involved. The modern open source data stack is really coming together, and we're really excited for Superset to be that consumption and visualization layer on top of it all, and very excited too of all of the applications and other layers that we integrate with, and that you'll probably hear about in the context of this conference. So thank you, everyone. And then I believe I will be on the chat after this. So I'm not sure if it's a Discord or a Slack, but I'm heading there. And I'll be there to answer questions and to talk about everything Superset and open source data related. So thank you, everyone. And see you on the chat.